Welcome back to the Belonging Place, where we talk about belonging, community, and connection. And I am very excited for my guests today, who are also longtime friends of mine. Well, some longer than the others, but both longtime friends. And we have Terrin and we have Henry. Ammar, welcome. Welcome, my friends. I'm going to read it just to start us off with a bang. I'm going to read one of my very, very favorite quotes of all time. It's actually the quote that's been at the bottom of my whatever email I've had for probably 20 years. Wow. And I want you to just kind of listen to the words, and then I would love you to share your thoughts about it. It happens to be my favorite, but I haven't used it yet on a podcast, and I was like, this is perfect for the Ammars. Okay. It is by George Bernard Shaw from Man and the Superman. I had become a new person, and those who knew the old person laughed at me. The only man who behaved sensibly was my tailor. He took my measure anew every time he saw me, whilst all the rest went in with their old measurements and expected them to fit me.
So good.
That's so good.
I mean, both of us could probably talk to that.
Yes,
I think I know what you're thinking. I think I know what you're thinking about.
Well, usually, yeah.
I think we're thinking the same thing. So Terrin and I, she laughs because I have this quote that says, "If we haven't spoken in over a year, please allow me to reintroduce myself, because that's how much I love growth, and the growth game is strong, you know." And it's just, to me, that's one of the beauties of life is growth. And actually kicking off this podcast is perfect, because what's one of the first things I told you when we went on a date?
Oh my gosh. Well, if we would have met 2 months earlier, that you would have ruined it.
Yeah. And so, like, had I not grown, even though I had been doing the work for 20 something years of my life, I had decided to do the work around relationships. And had I measured myself, like, I think one of the beauties of life is growth, because, you know, the common denominator in everything I do is me. And so if I grow, then my love life grows, and my income can grow, my impact can grow, my relationships can grow to my friends, whatever that is. And so I love growth, and it's a high value for me. And so the month before we met, I went on a really deep dive around relationships in my life. And that's the beautiful part about it. And was I telling you this yesterday? I think a lot of people that have seen me, like, we had a conversation earlier. This last year was one of the biggest growing years of my life, which is big to say because I grow. I excel.
Yeah. When you say that, I'm always a little bit like, yeah, you're more growy than most.
I love growing. Like, I'm obsessed with growth.
We're growing.
And so it's like,
that's a compliment.
I told Tina, I was like, I bet you how many people that have not talked to me, because I kind of went into my little cave, don't, like, I almost feel like I need to reintroduce myself in a sense. And it's so easy to go back to, like, fitting certain, you know, roles you play. And so it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
And I love this quote, both sides, like, we change, and both sides that I wish more people were like the tailor. Like, I just wish, there's a phrase, you can't step in the same river twice, right? Like, you can't go home or whatever. But I love that quote, because I guess I want to invite people to let people change, particularly those who are your closest to, because they seem to have the least amount of ability to change, because you think you know them, where they are in your families or in your work or in your marriages, right? It's like, these are the places where just recently somebody was on Instagram or TikTok talking about how they were coming back to a church, and how they really hoped and wanted and prayed for people who knew they had left the church would be open to them coming back. Right? And gosh, don't we want to be those people who are just like, I'll measure you every time I see you. I'll get to know you or ask you questions, because I don't know what's happened since the last time I saw you.
But don't you think, being a therapist yourself, so you know this, like, every time there's change, your nervous system will say, wait a minute, this isn't something we've done before. Or, do you remember last time we did that? Like, this is what's going to happen. So change automatically has resistance. So I say expect resistance.
Totally.
But choose freedom, choose love, choose the next level either way. It's not like, I know that me stepping into this new role, family, it's like everybody's like, whoa, did you say it out loud? Because I'm more open and a little bit more bold with how I am. And even with Terrin, and I don't want to hug the mic. So I went up to her earlier, it was like a year and a half ago, and I said, babe, I feel like I'm about to grow into a lot more boldness. So before I do that, I want to pre-frame with you because it's easier to pre-frame than reframe
Yeah.
this, so we can set it up properly to win in our relationship. Because I know if I just showed up in this new way without pre-framing it to my beautiful wife, then she would be like, what's wrong? Is Henry mad? Is he this? It's like, no, I'm just more liberated in this space of my
Yeah.
life.
And it's also very like being able to be a witness to growth too is really beautiful. In the way that he's pre-framed it to me. And we were talking about this of
Totally.
Henry's a very bold, passionate individual.
Yeah.
And to think of, oh, there's a next level for him. And absolutely, he's like 10 times the boldness, which is super hot, by the way. And but to be a witness to it is really, really neat. And I think sometimes, to your point of change, like people find change to be really scary. I can say that back in the day, I was scared of change before I got so deep into growth, but that's because it created certainty for me. If nothing changes and everything's the same, I know it's certain and I'm good. Where we just went to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, and his quote, he said, the quality of your life is determined by the amount of uncertainty that you are comfortable with. And that really hit me of like, oh my gosh. And I realized this is the biggest thing for me, was the most beautiful things in my life came into my life when I was willing to be uncertain. When I was willing to be uncertain in love is when I was able to call in the relationship that I didn't even know to pray for. Like I didn't know to pray for this man. He's so amazing. And like, he's beyond anything that I could have written down on paper. And even in work and career and friendship, like when I was willing to be uncertain, and it's, I don't think the goal is to never be dysregulated ever. If anything, that's where the most growth happens, is when you feel dysregulation, when you feel discomfort, when you feel resistance. That tension point is where, oh, there's opportunity here. It's okay.
I have to tell you this, like, thank you for being a champion of my growth. Like really, like I don't know if I said this the other day, I was like, you see me not only for who I am, but you see me for who God made me to be. And I think that ignites me in a way to move forward towards that. It's not resistance, it's actually an accelerant to my growth, because like you see that. And what's that quote is, there's a fool and a king in every man, and the one you speak to is the one that shows up.
That's it.
And you speak to the king in me, and I'm really grateful for that. So
I love that.
I love all of that. There's a meme years ago that went around, speaking a little bit about being the therapist part and change, that's like become just like a standard that I just love and I share quite a bit. And the meme was basically like, there's two lines that people kind of like a DMV. And one line was, who wants change? And there's like a bunch of people in the line. And the next sign over says, who wants to change? The first moment I saw that, I equally like laughed and wanted to cry, because when I sit with people, like I sit with teenagers, right? But I'm not sure that many people want to change, but I think there's a lot of people that want change,
Yeah, my fire is burning inside of me. I just, I think people want to change. They're scared to change. I think people are, because when they see something they don't like about themselves, they beat themselves up, or they think they're not good enough. When I was praying in the car, I pray before I drive, 99% of the time, unless I forget. But like, I was sitting in my car one day, and I just came to my heart, and it said, love yourself exactly where you are, and love yourself enough not to stay there. Both. Right? So it's like, I can't, like, most people tell themselves enough truth to be uncomfortable, but not enough truth to be free. Why? Because if I discover something I like about myself, what does that mean about me? Is that my identity? Am I just like, no, like, all of us are growing, right? We need to create a safe enough place to know that I could love myself exactly where I'm at. I don't need to wait to be something else to love myself or be good enough for a relationship or whatever, yet love myself enough not to stay here.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, there's so many people that are like, I want to grow, but then they're running these programs and these fear-based patterns and these struggles. And to me, they hit these walls of resistance, and they think resistance means stop. But reality is, like, I always ask people when I'm speaking, I'm like, how many people here paid money to go to a gym? Like, and almost everybody raised their hand. I'm like, okay, what if you went to the gym and there's like beautiful like equipment and shiny, but there's no weights? Would you pay money? They're like, no. I was like, so you pay money for resistance? Because you know that resistance is going to get you to the place that you want to be in your health and your physicality, etc. When in reality, resistance is the way. Fear is the way. And my biggest change with Terrin and I, like today we were talking about, I was like, I am looking for where are my fears? Where are my discomforts? Where are my patterns? Because emotions are messengers, fears are messengers. They're not supposed to be dictators. But so many people like hit a wall and they're like, they feel resistance, like, oh my gosh, let me run back and get to like what is, quote unquote safe, when it's actually not. It's not healthy for you, whether it's a bad relationship or a state. But man, like cultivating and what you're doing and talking about belonging is like creating a safe enough place within yourself and around people. Like, I thank God for my beautiful wife and people in our lives, friends that actually hold the space for us to not only love us where we are, but see us God has made us to be, to help us navigate that and recognize that when I discover something I don't love about myself, it doesn't mean I'm bad. It doesn't mean I'm terrible. It was, as Dr. Stephen Porges says, it was an adaptive response, not a bad behavior. Like, I just adapted. And I'll just tie a bow with this. When I used to be passive, I used to be super insecure, and I used to be a people pleaser, like tippy toe around what everybody said. And I was like, why am I passive? And it was my identity for so long until I did the work. And then I realized when I was a kid and I would speak up, and if it was against what my father wanted, my father was a beautiful man, a very passionate man. So when I would speak up contrary to what my father wanted, a lot of passion would go in a fear-based way, anger, and I got scared. So I learned, if you speak up, you lose safety and connection. So what did my body learn? Don't speak up or you lose safety and connection. So I got really good at people pleasing, right? And so I tippy-toed. But the reality is that was just an adaptive response. And until I learned that it was just my nervous system not feeling safe enough to speak up and then resolve that part of myself. Now, Terrin said being bold, like, I have no problem. Like, we just talked about me going on stage this summer in front of 45,000 people and just being extremely bold, right? I look back at little Henry and I'm not mad at him for being passive or insecure. I was like, man, like, you did the best you could with the programming you had, but it's not your identity. It was just a program. And we're so much bigger than this meat sack of a program.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and can I add to that
Yeah,
real quick? So
yes.
what's also really neat is I witness him now intentionally putting himself in positions where he's uncomfortable. Like, he finds where he's uncomfortable because he knows that there's freedom on the other side of it. So like, even like going to Muay Thai, and like you talk about how if a fist is being thrown at my face and I still can stay present and focused and it's uncomfortable, he's still able to he's able to get to a new level of freedom. It's similar to, like, I'm not like a huge football fan and Tom Brady fan, but they tell a story about Tom Brady where in practice he would intentionally put himself into uncomfortable positions and have someone tackle him, like in really weird, awkward positions. And that was because it helped him in a game. When he was tackled, his body wouldn't get injured because his nervous system was already used to that uncomfortable position being tackled. It's the same thing with us in life, in looking at it like everything is an opportunity to this man, and now to me. He's been such a great teacher to me, where I might be like twitching, like, this is uncomfortable, but I'm like, no, I can keep going because there's always freedom on the other side of it. So
teacher and receiver, which we'll get into, because you both have things that you have gifted and given to each other. I don't want to miss this opportunity because you said it, and I want to capitalize on it earlier about creating safe spaces and friends and people around us. So because we're sitting right across from each other, because it's my podcast, I want to say to you, Henry, specifically, like, we have our own friendship, and you have, I know this. I have a brain working knowledge that you have so many connections and you have so many people, and you've stood on a million stages, and your podcast, when it was going, run awards. Like, I have been able to sit with you in spaces when you were writing a book. Like, my brain knows that you're very well-known, renowned, whatever the words we would say. But my heart only knows you as, like, my friend, Henry. That's it. I value those parts about you, don't get me wrong, but, like, one of my favorite things about you in my friendship is, and you just sit it upstairs, is that no matter how much time we have apart, or even when we're not really, there have been times and seasons of our friendship, you will ask a question that I know is not a typical question. And the typical question is just like, how are you doing? Right? And I know you, so I know you're not saying like, how are you doing? You're like, how are you doing, Kylee? And I don't know if you know this, because I don't know how familiar you are with how I react with other people and other friends. But there has never been a time when you have asked me how I'm doing that I haven't, like, answered you really authentically,
Mm.
like just really present, and it hasn't always been, I'm good, right? like, and I don't know, I could guess, but that's not for everybody.
Mm.
Everybody doesn't get that. And I don't think I'm lying. I think I'm saying I'm good enough when I say like I'm good. I think I just want to say that's
Oh.
belonging to me. I just want to say that is it doesn't surprise me when good like this comes into your life.
Oh,
when you're putting that out,
thank you.
So
I love you and I'm grateful for you. I've
yeah.
seen your heart behind the scenes. We've got to see some moments, and we've got behind the curtains, and you're just good soul, and I appreciate you and I genuinely care. And I thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
part of me wanted to share that because I just love you, and part of me wanted to say to people that are listening that you're not just a talking head and you're not just like full of knowledge and quotes and things, because you are full of those and you've earned those. But that like if you really want to be a connector, if you really want to create space, if you really want the best of life, if you want people who are going to challenge you, right, in your relationships, then you really do have to put that out. You can't just be receiving that. You
Yeah.
have to like genuine and authentically put yourself out there. You have to be willing to ask and you have to be willing to receive. And like
Yeah.
that's part of the dance,
Yeah.
right?
And I think it's, comes down to love, like the question is like, I think at the end of the day, the measurement's going to be love,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and a lot of times it's like I always talk about like the fear-based life versus the love-based life. And Terrin and I were having this conversation earlier, actually. And was talking about just like love. And I think what we're really looking for in all things is just like to get back to love. And we're talking to Dr. Frank Anderson, who's a dear friend, a beautiful soul. He's like, Henry, like everything I was doing my whole life, even wanting to be the top of my class at Harvard, was wanting, because if I was the top, I would be loved more. If I was this, I'd be loved more. It's like you realize like this is what it is. And so for me, realizing that like love is truly the answer, and it sounds so cliche. Like I was kind of bold with somebody and I felt bad at first, but I kind of was really honest with him. Someone called me. I feel bad, I don't remember his name. I met him years and years and years ago, and he's called me and he's like, hey, so yeah, blah blah blah. So I was wondering, like, can I be on your like it was just like very take energy. And I was like, hey, can I give you some pointers? I was like, I struggled so bad for so long, like nobody knows. Like it's funny, I'm gonna deviate for 1 second, but my buddy won best new influencer in like 2000, I don't know what it was, 20 something, 21 or something. And we're sitting down and he had 60 million video views a week, and he goes, Henry, I won best new influencer, I've been making videos since 2013. And it's like, not that like it's like, oh, but it's like in a sense, how the question isn't what can I take, is how can I show up and add so much value and love people so deeply, and then trust whatever happens from there.
Totally.
And I told the guy on the phone, I said, listen, man, like, I love your ambition, but I want you to know that even if we did something, it would be transactional.
Mm-hmm.
There are relationships that I've had. We got to do a really cool event with Will I Am in not 2024. And my friend Julie, she's a beautiful person. I've known her for so long. She runs this company. And she got the Black Eyed Peas on the radio. She's an amazing soul, ran Beats Apple for a long time. Never asked her for anything because I never wanted to ask unless I saw it was a true win-win-win-win situation. And at the point when I knew the Black Eyed Peas were performing at this festival and Will wanted to get his technology out and she wanted to do this and she wanted to do that, and it would benefit the people there and the festival, that's when I said, hey, what do you think about this? And it happened and it was beautiful, and Will had a beautiful experience. We all had a beautiful experience. So when we could think through the lens of love and we could think through the lens of value add and showing up, and because I walked in the room, what was I able to bring genuinely, not because I'm going to get something, but because I genuinely love. And when you can learn to love other people and you learn to love yourself and the divine, right, to me, like that's the win. And so it is fascinating because I do feel like I'm a billionaire in relationships, but you get what you invest
Totally.
in, like what you invest in. You've invested in this podcast. You put out 40, 50 episodes, more than that, and you put time and time and time into it. You would never get something if you didn't invest your time, energy, and love into it. And so to me, like there's a lot of people here, just go add value, add more value than anybody else. Go love people. If fear is running the show, anything fear touches, it will destroy, limit, or just divide. Anything that love touches will expand, enhance, and connect. right?
Love
And so
that.
that's it. Like, how
I
can
want a
we
sticker that says
Yeah,
that.
I know.
we'll walk in that, you know?
Bumper sticker.
I want it right up, right here on my.
Yeah. And so it's just moving to that space. And all of us have fears, all of us have insecurities, and all of us get nervous when we're going and sitting in these rooms. I was telling Terrin, like, I've been really fortunate now to coach people that have built unicorns and massive exits and all these things. At the end of the day, we're all human beings
Totally.
Mhm.
that are here, that have invested our life in one area, that are looking to have a fulfilled, loving life.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
convinced everybody wants to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my
Exactly.
next question I'm going to direct to you first,
Okay.
and then you second. It's the same question, but just
Okay.
think.
Okay.
Welcome to the belonging place.
Thank
by the way.
you. We like it here.
Um,
We love it here.
Where, if you can think of the very first place you felt like you belonged?
Oh man, that's a good question. Actually, okay, it came very fast to me, this is not like in any way like it's just truth. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
we
speak your
speak
truth, girl.
total truth. Was actually our first date in person. Context of my story, you know my background.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
came from an abusive relationship. The man that was supposed to be my protector pulled a gun on me and my kiddos and sent me off into this journey. And then entered the dating world in my 30s, which we know is interesting.
The
Yes.
dating pool.
Yes. And so
It's not that bad. I shouldn't have said that. It's bad, but it's,
it's sorry. Like talk about growth,
it's
right?
just
So-
hard. It's a hard place.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And I finally had got, I went through this year of growth and learning and discomfort. And I finally had got to the point that I was like, I'm just going to live in the truth of who I am, like in my full authentic self. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to hide. I don't want to have to, do any of that. And Henry and I had been talking for like a week, and I happened to be in Las Vegas for work. He happened to be there. We go on our first date. And the whole first date, we went to Cheesecake Factory. Everyone thought we had been together for like 10 years. But that night, we were sitting in the car and I shared my whole story with him.
Mhm.
Usually, this is something that when you're new into dating, you don't share that deepest stuff until a
Right.
couple months down the road, probably. And I just was like, this is me. Like, welcome to my world. And I'm crying and sobbing and snot, all the not cute things. But when I had got done sharing, I expected the worst. Like I
I
expected.
call this my unspeakable things. When I
Yes.
share my unspeakable things.
Yes. Yeah. And I thought he was going to run for the hills. I was just like, okay. But I'm open.
Yeah.
Not looking for like save me or anything like that. Just this is me. And it was the first moment that I ever felt truly seen
Mm.
by someone, because he didn't care about anything other than me in that moment. He cared about creating safety for me, and I see you, and hey, I got you. Like, and he said, even though like he knew in that moment he was supposed to say this, even though it was our first day, he's like, hey, you're with me, I got you.
Mm.
And I literally,
Well, you're with me. I got you all over the
Yes.
place, right?
yes. And I had a physical, like visceral, emotional, like spiritual response. And I literally fell into him. Well, I felt this way, but like I fell into him.
Mm.
And because I felt like I belonged, someone truly saw me in my truth and my depth and my pain and also my goodness and desire. And it was all welcome in that
Oof.
place.
Thank you. I mean, I've heard you share you guys multiple times, but that was powerful. What about you? First time.
First time, it's funny. I was thinking about when she was speaking, I was like, the women in my life have been the ones to make me feel like I belong. It's been like my mother and Terrin and my sister in certain moments of my life. Very beginning, I mean, my family came from a pretty rough spot, like growing up. My dad had $200 in her pocket before I was born. We lived in the same room and stuff. And my father's dad died when he was 9. A lot of trauma. Just started smoking and drinking when he was 9. Like lots of difficulties. And so we know from the space that sometimes that age gets embedded into our system. So when we get activated, my mentor said you could know the age of a person's unhealed trauma by how they act when they're triggered.
Mm.
And my dad would throw tantrums like he was 9. So a lot of times my dad was like the safest and the most unsafe at the same time, feeling for me. But beautiful man, I love him so much. Like, he's on the other side now. And my mother was like my safe space, like in the whole world. Like she loved me, she protected me. My mom was 4'8", but she would fight to the death for me, and then I told Terrin the other day, I was like, thank you for loving me. Like sometimes for me, it sounds really weird and like totally vulnerable. Like I was like, sometimes I forget that I am loved in a sense. Like I forget like I'm loved purely because I've felt love from God like in my worst, but it's been Terrin and my mother really and my sister moments in my life like who have loved me like when I've felt so unlovable at certain moments, and of course God, you know,
You
but
know, Henry, you know why I know that about you? Because it doesn't seem like you ever miss an opportunity to talk about your mom.
Mhm.
Like you have been on again a million stages, right? Um I think most people would be like if they didn't know, they would maybe guess your safe space, your earliest safe space was your mom. I say that because like it obviously matters. It was informative to you.
very
I mean,
much.
you could have grown out of saying that year
Mhm.
after year. It would be assumed, right? Most people
Yeah.
are like, this is my safest space. But like people who never got the chance to meet your mom and have heard you speak about how much you love her and how important it is to you, like, I love your mom
Mhm.
because I love you because of how much you talk about your mom, right?
Yeah.
She's one of the people. There's people in my friends' lives that I'm just like, okay, in heaven, we're gonna exchange our families and members that that we know but we don't know.
Yeah.
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 So thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you.
sharing
I
about
was
that.
telling Taryn today, I was like, man, I'm grateful for my parents. They like sacrificed so much just so I could have what I have. Like it's so easy to forget sometimes the roads that were paved for us,
Those who
even
came
if they weren't
before.
perfect roads, you know, but like, and what I developed because of the difficulties with my father and the family stuff, but like they tried their best. And I'm not saying everybody's life, some people have different situations. And granted, there are moments people be like, you went through what? Like, what did you have to go through every week? What did you have to go through? And it was like really rough, but it made me, like, as Tony says, a practical psychologist really early on, right? To navigate these dynamics. And it's made me who I am today. And I'm just like, man, like sometimes we want to say, I did it all on my own. It's like, no, I didn't.
Or I'm the result
Yeah.
of my like victimhood because
Right.
of who was before.
Right.
Either side
Yeah.
of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I tell the story when my mother passed away. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, went down to like 70 pounds. It was so hard to see like my rock, like just wither away. It was a rough time in my life, like more rough than most people knew at the time. Nobody knew outside because I was kind of holding it together for everybody. But I remember, because I'd been doing this work for so long, I knew the power of a decision and I knew the power of what decisions turn into when you really make them. They turn into the
Mhm.
belief systems, especially when there's a very emotional experience, right? That's how trauma happens.
Mhm.
And I knew when my mother passed away, I was holding her hand. And at that moment, I literally talked to myself, said, Henry, what you decide here is going to impact the rest of your life. And I looked at her and I took what I call a sacred pause. And I paused and I said, and I thought through it. And then I looked at her and I said, Mom, and this story of the carrot, the egg, and the tea bag kind of came in my head where they say like there's 3 pots of boiling water and you throw a carrot in one, an egg in another, and a tea bag in the third one. And after 10 minutes, you pick up the carrot. What happens? It's soft and withered. You pick up the egg, it's hardened. You pick up the tea bag. What happened? All the beautiful characteristics went into the water, made the water more colorful, smell better, taste better, all the things, right? Like whatever herbal tea it is. Um, it extracts it. And I realized at this moment, I could either become the carrot and just like let myself just struggle, like my safety, my rock, like my whole life, blah, blah, or harden, like life is this. But I said, no, how do I let this juice the best of me and honor this woman with how I live my life? So I looked at my mom and I said this out loud. I said, Mom, I will honor your sacrifices with how I live my life.
Amen.
And I made a decision at that moment. It wasn't easy. I was still mad. I was still sad. I was still happy she wasn't hurting. I was still grieved. I was like all the emotions in one moment. But I realized the power of a decision with what I choose to view and what that meant for me, because it could have meant something very different for me. And the meaning I gave that was going to impact the trajectory of my life, right? And like it's shifted, if I thought, oh, life is so hard, maybe I wouldn't have been as open-hearted to meet this beautiful soul, and be open to friends. Maybe I would have went into a cave, like who knows? And so there's always a way back, even if you make those decisions. But I knew at that moment I had to make a real decision to create the meaning that it did and let it mean something that impacted me. Because if I'm going to go through it anyway, I might as well grow through it and I might as well use it because I cannot control that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the last thing I'll say is the thing that got me through it was a serenity prayer. God grant me the peace, the serenity to accept the things I can't change and give that to you. The courage to change the things that I can. All I could change was me. And the wisdom to know the difference. And so that's what got me through it all. So those belonging is that woman kicked off this very sensitive man's heart
Yeah.
growing up in the world.
I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. Okay, so Terrin, we could spend a whole episode plus talking about all the awesomeness of you,
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
the boss lady of you.
Yes.
Just snips for people who don't know. Like, you're a baller, you like a literal baller, like
All state
basketballer.
basketball, Division One.
You are a businesswoman. You're so many things. But the question I actually want to ask you is, you started, I am guessing, I'm going to look at the words exactly, but you are the founder of the Queen Collective, and I imagine it was birthed from something deeply personal. What was stirring in your soul when it began? And I just want to say one more thing before I let you jump into that. The reason why I started with all the things that you are is I think that there are some people in life who are like, I don't know what I want to do. And then there are some people who are really capable and could do lots of things. And I am genuinely curious. I know a lot about the Queen Collective. I've been like with you to do many of the things that you've done. So less about like that, but more about like when you looked at your life and you looked at the choices you had and when you were safe enough, there must have been some reason why this became your mission.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
Oh, you're so kind
Yeah,
too, by
yeah.
the way, Kylie. Goodness. Well, I've always wanted to, or I've always helped and served and helped women grow. Like, I started back in like 2011. I was at a retail company, and I started a meeting called the Wild Meeting, which is women in leadership development that this retail company still uses to this day. But still, like, even that didn't feel like, oh, I want to continue down this road. And then, helped in fitness and nutrition, and those things still were great, but I'm like, there's something deeper within it. And then the way that it really came about, obviously, is from like my own lived experience and story. When I was serving women at that point, I hadn't gone through like life. Life was lifing, and things that I never thought would ever be a part of my story. One of my favorite quotes now is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans and he'll
There you
laugh.
go.
Like, I had this plan. I thought this is what life was going to be. And that led me into, my journey led me into an abusive relationship for 11 years. And like I just mentioned, it ended with a gun and some violence. And a lot of people will ask me, how did you heal from the gun situation? And I said, well, I would say that's not what I ask myself.
Wrong question.
It's the wrong question. My
Yeah.
question is, how did I get into that? What were the behaviors? What were my beliefs? What was the identity that I had? Why did I stay for so long? So that's when I dove into this work, and I realized, in a lot of this work, I had so many breakthroughs, some in 2 hours that had taken me 5 years to dive into, and so having gone through that, I was like, women need to know this, right? And one of the most powerful things was really reconnecting to the feminine being within myself. We talk about belonging, and I was telling Henry on the way here, to me, one aspect of belonging is being able to belong in your own skin, belong in your own body, belong in your feminine, because so many women don't feel as though they belong in that, because the world has told us that we praise the masculine, we praise the achievement, we praise the striving and the going and the doing, and which is amazing, and it serves us to an extent. We can build beautiful things from it, but being able to also belong in your feminine, like God created.
Well, and I would also add, and you know this about me, not everyone knows this about me, but when you don't necessarily also fit what the typical feminine mold is, right? Like, and that has changed a lot in the last few years. But I would say growing up, I was a tomboy and I was loud, and I just always felt, I tell people, I feel like I was like an elephant that was squished into like a mouse, And I kind of felt like women had to be demure and like quiet and like, behind the scenes. And anyway, I'm just saying, like, one of my favorite things working with you, and one of the about being feminine, is just like there's so much to that, and there's so many sides to that, and this idea of fitting in your skin.
Exactly. And I think, so the most powerful part is exactly what you said, is that women think that there's a mold that even you fit in for the feminine, where your feminine is so unique to every single individual. And let's just be honest, I've seen you in my feminine embodiment experience, and I'm like, fire, right? Like I've seen you, and it's
Yeah.
what's cool is it's yours and it's your
Yeah.
own. My experience with my feminine is mine, and it's my own.
And I went with a bunch of other women, so
Yeah.
getting to experience that with so many colors, so many
Yes.
layers, so many.
Yeah. And who felt like they rejected certain parts of the feminine, who accepted it, who wanted to express even more. And that's what's neat is it's a full range and dynamic. The feminine, what I learned is that that's what it is. Like I am unique. God created me uniquely in my feminine and you uniquely in yours, and bringing it to authenticity within all of us as opposed to performance-based femininity.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to perform anymore because that's what we were taught younger, is like what you said, we have to perform feminine, where this is what a man likes and this is what I should be. And where no, like Henry sees my full like range and dynamic, where I will be the silliest, playful goofball, like ridiculous. And also I have my own integration of the masculine, and it's also like the wisdom of my intuition. And so it's being able to embody all of that and let that come in and out and present itself when it's needed. Not, oh, I need to be this or I need to be this. It's just such a natural state. So in building the Queen Collective, I'm like, women need to know the power of their feminine. It's not weak.
Yeah.
And it started with, okay, trauma healing and whatnot, moved to embodiment. Then I moved a little bit into business, where now it's truly stepping into the full range and dynamic of your feminine, specifically even in marriage. Because to me, the foundation of anything we do is a direct correlation of your romantic relationship or the closest relationships in your life, especially with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you start with you. It's not a come into my world and I'm going to fix your husband for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's we start here. We
Well,
take radical.
You're speaking my language, because the only person you can change is yourself.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's all in some way or form, that's all I say every day in my career.
Yeah.
The only person you can change is you.
Yeah.
So you can come and talk to me about everybody and anything, but the only person we're going to work on is you.
Yeah. And how do you experience your own feminine? How do you experience yourself? Which then in turn, it's your husband gets to, or your partner or your friends experience you in a different way. I always say, when you walk into a room, you're felt before you're seen.
Mm.
And that to me is the power of the energy that you bring into it. And our feminine is so powerful. It complements, it is peaceful when you allow it to be. And so
And there's so much more that we won't get into today. We'll leave some at the end. We'll tell people where they can find you and more. My follow-up question to you, and then I'll ask you some questions, Henry, is this. I kind of, here at the Belonging Place, I have a word for what I call these belonging places. I call them wells. This is not going to be unfamiliar to you guys. This is the belonging place in the scriptures, or this is the place where people came to find the living water, and this is also where romances were happening, and this was the gathering place. So I see the Queen Collective as its own well, right? A belonging place. I want to ask you, you've now done this for a few years in various venues and various spaces. What have the women or the belonging place or the connection that has been created as a result of you building that well, like what have you learned, or what's something that you are taking away from that?
Oh man,
because when we start something, we have some ideas about it, but then we are in it and we marinate and we do it, and maybe we learn something totally differently, or maybe what we thought is true, right?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is, so I start anything I do at the Queen Collective, my prayer always is, God, make this what you need it to be, not what I want it to be. Because there's been so many times where I'm like, oh, well, I want it to be this, and I'm going this direction. God's like, no, back this way, And that's happened even a couple of times this last year. And I would say the overarching thing is, so many women want to feel chosen. And when we dive into this work, understanding that first, choosing yourself is probably the most powerful aspect. Choosing the work. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned, is so many women come into my world and all of these external things are affecting them, whether it be work or relationship or whatnot. And in reality, it was funny. Again, we just went to Tony's event and he said, people don't trigger you. You trigger you.
Rubbing
from
up
what
up
other
to
people,
them,
yes,
in their presence and their whatever,
which is true. Like if you think about that fundamentally, it's true in that aspect. But the women, it's very much in line with what I've learned with women coming into this place, and also just their pure desire. Like women want nothing more than to, a lot of mine is relationship based, and women want nothing more than to be with a man that they are so proud to be with, that they feel cherished, that they can also champion. They want to be able to speak and say things that are true. Like I love, a lot of, the masculine desire is admiration and respect and to be spoken to in that way. And I love that I can truly say those things about this man and mean it, and it's true. I'm not abandoning any part of myself by saying something just because he wants to hear it. It's coming from truth. And that's really what women, I've noticed, desire is they want to be seen. They want to take off their own mask. They want to step into their own voice to bring their gifts to the world. And they've just been put in that box by themselves, where I get to hold that mirror to them and show them, like, there's freedom over here. Like, you're allowed to be sexy and love Jesus at the same time. Like, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And that, right?
Yes, it's the and. I teach them the power of the and, because you are feminine and you are masculine. It's and. That's why I teach the archetypes. So I would say that's one of the most powerful things. And that's why I love the belonging place. I'm like, yes, women want to feel like they belong, and belonging.
All their parts.
Yes, all their parts belong. Yes.
Not just all of their parts. We don't have to leave some of the parts outside the door. We can just come with our whole selves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And belonging to themselves is one of the biggest.
So I want to say to you, there's more to come for all of this, for you, for all this. But thank you for building a well. Not everybody can build a well. Some people are meant in life to come to the well. Some people are meant to blow wind on the well builders' sails. But if there's one thing doing this podcast, and like in the second half of my life, I'm on the latter end of my life now, that I feel like is some of the wisdom that I've learned is that I kind of knew this, but I'm fiercely attracted to well builders. I kind of knew this, but I didn't call them this. I don't mind. I also love people who are like coming to the well, But for me, part of my belonging place is to surround myself with well builders that are like, you're doing your thing, and you're doing your thing, and I'm doing my thing, and there's enough people that need enough things to do it. There's not nearly enough women that are doing it. I think there could be more. So I just want to say thank you for being brave and doing it. I mean, you're also really kick-A at it, but on the other side of just like starting something that matters, I think I just want to blow wind in your sails. I mean, I want to keep showing up. That's the best way you tell people that they matter and what they do. But I just love what you're doing and what I know you're going to continue to do.
Thank you.
She's funny. She's so humble about it. It's really cool because like we were on this Zoom thing, and a couple of her former clients came in that were like wanting to be chosen, wanting to be in a relationship, and it was so cool to watch this one woman come on, and she's just got married, and she was like, thank you so much for helping me like learn to like love myself and accept myself and be myself. So then I finally attracted someone that loved me for me and not this mask that I put on. And the guy was like, yeah, and I just want to say thank you too, because now I got to like be a part of it. It was like really cute to watch them. And I was like, it's so cool to see that there is a space in the world where women can come and learn to like just love every part of themselves and be every part of themselves. And then that not only changes their life, but it attracts and invites and elevates everything else in life, because the feminine like takes something and makes it 10 times better, right? Like that's how babies are born, right? Way more than 10 times better. And so it's like, it's cool to see her unlock the magic in the women, because I think there's so much magic in the feminine.
And you mentioned this briefly, but as a person, as a female who's single perpetually, I also want to say this matters for whatever, you kind of mentioned it, but you said for whatever relationships you have. I know my work on my femininity has helped me in all of my relationships. I do hope it helps me in attracting a partner that can see the elephant, right? The whole part of me, and just be like, I love you where you are. So I never have to feel like I'm the mouse. But definitely the work. I just want to say to people, if you're like, I don't know if I'm looking for a partner, if I don't like, wherever you are, this authenticity and all your parts and all your femininity helps in all your relationships.
Yes,
and you
everything.
did say that. I just want to also
and and even in business, like it's like it elevates. You're so much more flexible. One of Henry's quotes is the most flexible person in the room is the most influential. So that's in relationships, that's in business. Like my feminine helped me build the most successful years of my life, you know, and it's the integration. It's not weak. It's so powerful in connection with like our masculine integration. And so it's like, and to your point, like the other thing I've learned is women, specifically like this one, so many women shrink themselves to be chosen. And what happens
and
is
then you have to stay that
and
small.
then you're staying
Gross.
because when you stay in,
Can you tell I really care about this?
Yeah.
yes,
I just really like, this is the worst part, is that if you shrink yourself, and I literally mean physically, emotionally, whatever. I'm not
Every
saying be
aspect,
healthy.
yeah.
I'm a big be healthy person.
Yeah,
But if you shrink yourself, you are beholden to that.
exactly.
Speaking of not being able to change and not being able to grow, right? If they got you there, but you're not allowed to change, then you have to stay there. This couldn't be, there's no worse prison in this life than that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
and so then the and to that is when you do step into your fullness, they can't hold you in that. They can't meet you there. So that's why you operate in your fullest expression and who you are and attract someone from that place.
All the people in your life, like you said.
All the people.
Okay, so Henry,
Okay.
I feel like many times people sit with you because you have collected lots of wisdom and they sort of want to pump it out of you. You've done the work and they sort of want to be like, "Okay, give me all the stuff." So I'm going to ask you a question that's sort of like different than that.
Yeah.
You know, I could say you've sat with all these people, like what have you learned? What I'm actually going to ask you is you've sat with all these people, very smart, very wealthy, very all the levels, stages. And what I want to know is, have you noticed any themes or patterns that have come up about those people? Not what they're saying, not what they're teaching, not what they're putting out, but themselves. As you have sort of sat and been around great minds, and this could be good or bad. I'm not angling for like they're all great. It could be that you've noticed some kind of pattern behind the scenes that isn't healthy. I don't know. I'm just curious if you've noticed.
I mean, you know, I'll just use Tony's quote: "Success without fulfillment is failure. It's ultimate failure." Like no amount of success or money could account for emotionally off balance or a lack of love or a lack of understanding of who you really are and the gaps that are filled that you thought were going to be filled with money. And money is great. Money's a magnifier. I love money. I love money to impact the world. I think God uses money to elevate. And money's a magnifier, marriage is a magnifier, power is a magnifier. So it's going to magnify everything. That success, fame is a magnifier. Everything that's healthy and good is going to magnify, and everything that's not is going to be like, right? It's gonna come up. And so utilizing the magnification process to understand where the gaps are. Like my thing is, when you're really successful, 1% is a massive shift for you, right? A 1% shift for someone that's making billions of dollars is a really big shift, right? And so, and some of these people have been doing work, but there's people that I'll look at. Like I was with this artist that was on the top of the Billboard charts, and it would never say their name, but like was there in the room, and on Instagram, on everything, it's like, wow, oh my gosh, what a life, tour, blah 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 blah, all these awards, this and that. And I'm sitting in the room, and I'm like, wow. Like there is something missing. And so no amount of success will ever compensate for that what is not looked at within yourself. It will just magnify.
Don't you think that some of the loneliest people though are at the tops and have the most gobs? Like, I don't know about you, but I'm saying.
And people think that's it takes, to be at the top, it's lonely. No, it's not. Like I know some people at the top that are like the most amazing, giving, loving people that are like beautifully connected. Maybe that's the pattern you've developed to be alone. Or maybe I go into my cave sometimes and I work really, really hard, but that's a choice that I make. But I do have real connection that I can get on the phone with somebody. It feels like I just met. We were just talking yesterday. What were we gonna say, babe? Sorry.
No, I was gonna say how we sat with one of our clients, and they have a B in front of like how much they make, right? But they literally said, I would rather live in a trailer as long as I knew that my partner loved me or my husband loved me. And so it goes to show that even success and money and all those things, there's certain things that people at that level crave more.
And it's all good stuff, but there's foundation, right? Like I remember I chased so long thinking that I was going to be enough when I was, top of my class at USC. I got this award. I was sang on a Grammy Award winning album and did all these things and, and then all of a sudden, like, got the titles. And I had this thing called the box, and there was all these certificates in it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, I remember this was everything to me at one point. This was everything to me at one point. This was everything to me at one point. What was I chasing? And the question is, it's like, that's all good if and when you are really finding wholeness within yourself and within the relationships you have, within your emotional, spiritual, and mental state. Because you can have everything in the world but feel empty, and it doesn't feel like you have anything. Or you could lose your health because of it, and you're empty, right? And so some people say when you're healthy you have 100 dreams, but when you're unhealthy you only have one. It's the same thing. When you're lonely you could have 100 dreams, but when you're in a connected relationship and all these things, you're gonna have 100 dreams, but when you're really lonely deep inside you have one, right? And so the thing is, like, all of us, and this isn't all my clients. Like, my clients are like killing it, crushing it. Some of them are like just wanting to like go turn the knob, but sometimes I'll get the call, hey, this person's like on the verge of like shutdown. Like, you need to fly over. I'll get called in 2 days, go to this freaking crazy place, 2 days, and just serve them, get them, to do fine tuning pit stop for the F1 race car, and then send them back off, And not all my I have the most beautiful clients, and they're so open and so humble, and there's like, I'm so thankful right now. I'm so blessed, like killing it in the world, yet good-hearted people. In my line of work, I spend a lot of energy and time, so I'm very selective with who I work with as well now, because my energy and your energy, we're going to be doing a lot of time together, so I'm very, very selective. I had someone offer to pay me 3 times as much as I charge, and I said no.
Yeah.
And not because it was them or me, but it was just, I knew what that would cost me in my life. So realizing that money is great, success is great, power is great, fame is great. If you're chasing it because you think it's going to make you feel better about who you are, loved or worthy enough or any of that, then you're going to come to a place where you're going to find out it's not true.
Temporarily.
Yeah.
I do think people temporarily,
Yeah.
but like you said,
And
that made me, and that made me. It's
yeah.
just like bench after marker after bench marker, right?
And people say, like, it's funny. So I have this thing called 5 levels of emotional freedom. It's the whole like nervous system mapped out, whatever. But you can win from fight or flight mode in a fear-based way, or you could live from emotional freedom, where I'm unleashing everything that God has given me from love, presence, power, certainty, all these things. And don't get me wrong, I love winning. I love it. I love winning. I love being successful. I love making money. I love making impact. I love my relationship. I love these things. I want the best. I aim for the best. I don't know how to aim less. I don't know how to think small. That's not like, my brain doesn't know small, And so it's not like I'm saying, oh no, it's like, dude, go freaking make billions. Go find the best love of your life. I think all of it is possible. The thing is, what you ignore is going to be the downfall. The fear-based places in your life will be your downfall, And if we're not honest about it, we're running this thing and it's lasted you enough, but everybody's running a pattern. But even Michael Jordan had coaches, Tiger Woods has coaches, Ray Dalio has coaches.
I tell everybody, there's a paperwork side to every job.
Yeah.
This is my idea of like, people are like, oh, I want to be a rock star. I'm like, they have buses and long rides, and it doesn't matter what you pick. There's going to be, yes, I'm just agreeing emphatically with you. Okay.
And purpose, you need purpose.
People that are listening that are maybe new to you are like, whoa, like everyone else says, powerhouses sitting next to each other, individualized, right? Then you marry them together. My next question is this. How do you keep your individuation, and especially like jobs and things, and be able to really pour into your marriage?
Yeah. You go first. I'm just kidding.
Gosh, well, I mean, of course, when you go to like us, like I'm automatically like emotional. Well, one, we just want to help each other win in everything that we do. Instead of it being a, well, he should know, he should just anticipate and he should just know, or anything, or vice versa. I just want so badly for him to win, and he wants for me to win. Like, I've never once felt diminished or smaller than or anything with this man. He's only elevated me. and it's very intentional. Like even, we were flying over here to Utah and I fell asleep, but he got me a little Diet Coke when the cart came by. Like he's just always so thoughtful and thinking of me. But it's like the easiest intentional thing I feel like that we get to do for each other. And also coming from both of our backgrounds, we don't take a single moment for granted with what we have. Like I do know that this is special because I've experienced the hell. And I, at some point, like this is what always gets me emotional, is knowing that when you get married, at some point you're going to have your heart broken. Like at some point I have to say goodbye to this man. So why wouldn't I spend every moment of my life making him feel so loved and championed and just all that God created him to be. And
Amen.
it's so easy for me to be able to do that. It's like I say, if my job was to talk about him, I'd be a billionaire myself, So that's mine. So
Good. I love you. Man, it's there you go.
Thanks.
It's funny. I told Terrin this. There's relationships where their needs become your needs and your needs are their needs. Like I want what she wants for her. Like she trusted me to choose me, to love her and protect her and be there for her.
And her girls.
Yeah, and her
I just want to
girls.
add, because that is a thing.
Yeah. And like, dude, you trusted me, and I'm going to honor that trust, and I'm going to lean into that trust, and I'm going to make sure that I give you everything that you desire and more. Like I told her the other time we were flying, that not only are her needs are my needs, but her wants are my wants. Like, I was thinking about the cookie from Florida.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's
a cookie from Florida. Yeah.
And it protected it all the way on the plane.
Literally, so it wouldn't break or come. Like he got this
because she was like, I really want to try that, but we left, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get it to her. But it wasn't like a thing. It wasn't the cookie. It was I want to make sure that she.
I thought of you.
Yeah, she knows.
Yes.
Like, dude, I want you to know I got you. Like I told you the first day on our first date, as long as you're with me, I got you. And that still is years and years and years later. It's still going to stay true, and it's going to stay true forever. And that's what it is. And if you trust me, then I will honor that trust. And you've trusted me to be there for you. And the goal was always like, how do we help each other win? How do we help each other go forward? And we're on the same team.
And it's without expectation. It's like it's truly a desire to make each other feel so loved. And
and understanding that like fear, as I said earlier, will divide you. Fear will make you fault find and insecurity. It's like, no, we committed to having a love-based relationship. So whenever fear shows up, that's a messenger of, hey, we need to address this and lovingly look at it.
Because marriage, like you said, is a mirror.
It's a mirror. It's a magnifier.
Magnifier.
It's magnified so much in me. I've become such a better man because of being married and being a father right away. Like I jumped right into, where
really cool to watch as a friend, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
He treats it like it's a sacred assignment
as
opposed to
it is.
as opposed to like a burden or anything. It is
and it's like if you're truly, and this is something I had to learn, Kylee, like healthy, true, love-based masculinity is driven by love, presence, and power under control. And its intention is to protect and elevate and provide and lift and honor and hold so much space that she gets to be everything that God made her to be. And those girls get to grow up being everything that God has made them to be. That is the trust that God has put in me as a man.
Yeah, you said power and control, and I think power in grace. I mean, we believe in the same kind of
absolutely
power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it comes from, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the idea of understanding, and that allows, and I know when I'm in healthy masculinity, it allows her to be in her femininity, and polarity happens, and intimacy can only happen at the depth of polarity that's available in the relationship. So whenever Terrin's in her masculine or I'm in my feminine, anger is also not masculine, but like toxic anger, I should say, is not masculine. Of course, if I'm in an alleyway and somebody tries to use my wife, like, that's a whole different conversation. But like, when I'm triggered and I'm in fight mode or flight mode, like I actually became the lion, I'm no longer the masculine protector, right? Or if I flee and I retreat and I avoid hard conversations, then now how is she supposed to feel safe with the lion if I can't even have a conversation with love and presence, right? So understanding the mechanics of why and what, and both of us have really understood each other. And I think the key is I have learned, and I do the work on myself like vigorously, and she does the same vigorously. And the coolest part about this is early on, when we first got married, I said, how are we gonna fight? And the goal always was, and it's been so beautiful, was after every time we've disagreed, we want to leave closer than separate.
Yeah, and it's always happened.
Yeah.
And can I add to that?
Yeah, of course, babe.
So there's a misconception about like when you're with a masculine man, because all the women, every woman, right, they want a masculine man, or all the women say, I want a masculine man as a partner. But what they don't know is that to be with a masculine man is to also ask them, are you ready for a man who's going to push you past your comfort? Because a masculine man walks you, he doesn't let you hide from your wounds or hide behind your wounds. Like he walks you to them to help you heal them. That's one of the greatest gifts that this man has given to me is, and I reframe it to always say, when I feel like discomfort, like, oh man, what's happening, is what is he protecting me from? Because that's really, his intention is always pure, even in relationship, even in the ruptures, like everyone has a pure intention. It may not come across that way to our nervous systems, but that really is what it's been. And we haven't even had like big fights or anything like that. But when we have had a rupture in some way or disagreement, we're always so much stronger after that.
And for everybody watching or listening, here's the thing, right? You could look at us and be like, oh, well, that's just an anomaly. It's like, no, we've put in work. We've put in work, and you can get there. It's absolutely possible. And as she said, she asked herself, she creates a different meaning when we're dysregulated. When I'm like trying to bring something up, instead of getting defensive, her question is, what is he trying to protect me from? Right. And my thing for her is if the feminine needs to feel safe, seen, and understood. Right. So if I see her dysregulated, or let me just say in her masculine, because all of us have both. If she's working, I'll say, hey, babe, are you working? She says, yeah. I'm like, cool, do your thing. If she's not, she doesn't feel safe in the world. Something's going on, right? And so my intention is to make sure she feels safe, feels seen, and feels understood. And it seems hard, but it's the hard part comes, the masculine, as Tony would say, doesn't want the other person to feel closed, criticizing, or controlling, right? And closed off, yeah. And so if all of a sudden she doesn't feel safe, seen, or understood, is she going to be more criticizing or less criticizing? More. Yeah. Is she going to be more closed off or less? More. Is she going to be more controlling? More, right? Now, what does that do for me? That's going to make me double down on whatever that is. If I'm not awake enough or aware enough, I'm going to double down on whatever that was that made her feel less safe, seen, and understood. Now I feel my masculinity went boom to more fear-based. Now, does she feel less safe? Yes. Yes, yes, until you catch it. And I love how Tony said this. Tony said, make it a race. Who can get regulated first?
Who becomes sane first?
Who can become sane first and bring yourself back?
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest mottos is if you could just create fundamental principles. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. Right? And that's what's beautiful. It's like we made a commitment. It's not easy. It takes work, But I think it's also like, recognizing that, yes, it's the best work. And when you understand the principles, there's just fundamentals. If you keep fighting for what you want and you don't understand fundamentals, you're going to keep getting what you get. You can't fight fear with fear. It never wins. Fire and fire just makes more fire. So how can you create self-leadership, get to a love-based, regulated, empowered state, and understand and heal your space, and the rest of it evolves. The frequency shifts. I see, hear, and think things differently when I do that.
One thing that I would just add to this, and then I'd love to hear your thought. Often, both as a therapist, but in my life, I am trying to help people be like, you guys are a we, right? So if there's a problem, the problem isn't here. It's usually something out here. And if the two of you can see what that thing is, and you're a team fighting it or looking at it or whatever, but the problem usually ends up being that this issue, becomes the person, and I love this. The sooner in in critical feedback or conflict that you can get to like, let's stop talking about the thing.
Mhm.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
us. Something's off here. It's
Yeah.
not ever really about,
Yeah.
hardly ever is it about the thing that you're upset about or that you're
Mhm.
talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you
Yeah.
gonna
Well,
say?
and one thing that he always does that's really good is if he comes to talk to me about something, he always reminds me, we're on the same team. Like, we're together. We're on the same team.
Where are
Like,
we?
we're fighting the lion together. But the other thing, too, is early on, we both realized that we both love growth so much. And Henry even said, he realized that there is no limit to who we can become because we're both willing to grow. When you have two people who are willing to grow and do the work, there's no limit to who you can become in relationship as individuals. And when those needs become your needs, you're also powerful individually. Like I have my own autonomy, my individuality. Like he loves seeing me being able to go and do my thing. He's not threatened by my own masculine energy whatsoever. The only place I don't have to let it exist.
Not only not threatened, but loves, right?
Loves. Like he
to
loves
see her.
seeing me do my
Yeah.
thing. The only place I don't let it exist is in our relationship. And so I have my individuality and he obviously has his. And then we also get to create together, which is my favorite. So, yeah.
I just have a couple more questions.
Yeah.
One of my questions is, in all of your retreats, speaking opportunities, performances, building of wells, all kinds of things, what wounds do you think people carry that block their belonging?
I got mine.
Go for it.
I think shame is the ultimate
Yes.
healing blocker.
Yep.
I think when I truly, truly believe it, that shame, when people don't understand the mechanics of why we do what we do sometimes, and they think it's just a character flaw, when in reality, understanding trauma or history or patterns or triggers or fear-based, all those things, they're just messengers, and your body usually reacts when it doesn't feel safe. The word react itself is react to act again, reacting out something. And so whenever someone's reactive, it's like, oh, that's history, right? And so I think when people don't let themselves get to such a place of love that heals because there's shame, right? Steve Young was using a metaphor of a train. And he said, I believe this is what he said. He said, like, all the work that we do is like boxcars on a train, but if the engine of love is not on, you're not moving.
Just sitting there.
Yeah. And so a lot of times when you think about it, even Adam and Eve, like, oh, I'm going to run away from God because I have the shame, and I run away from the healing, the healer, right? Or we want to just use love. Like a lot of times we'll shame ourselves into thinking we could beat ourselves up into healing, and it doesn't work, and I think people are so scared of their emotions also. They think their emotions are bigger than them.
Too much.
Yeah. And it's like, you can have emotions, don't let them have you, right? That's the thing. And so when we can learn to really understand emotions, understand how the operating system of this human meat sack works, right, of this biology, then I don't just become the program, I become the programmer, right? I can change this thing. That's the one most beautiful thing. I have this gift that where my past doesn't have to equal my future unless I choose it, but I will never choose to look at my past if I keep adding shame to it, right? Like, it's not going to work. Try, like, how many people here, like, when you think of something that you don't like about yourself, you beat yourself up. Dick Schwartz says, it's not how you feel that matters the most, it's how you feel about how you feel that matters the most, right? And so, yes, I might have this fear, but like, I've had moments.
I would say even, and what you put out in the world because of how you feel about, like,
Yes.
people can feel that about you, right?
100%.
It's not very attractive is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
And this is why, do we wonder when we're full of shame, why we feel disconnected or
Right.
not like we belong, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. I mean, I'll use a quick little story on this. She saw it live. Like, I was sitting there with like this icon of a celebrity. I was interviewing him, someone I looked up to so deeply. Like, will.i.am was just like, to me, brilliant genius creator. And European media's in front of me, it's just really powerful. And I sit down, and my old little Henry shows up and says, little imposter syndrome Henry showed up again. And I was like, well, I haven't seen you in a long time. Interesting time for you to show up. Rather than like beating myself up for it, I was like, oh, my body's just trying to keep me safe. And I like stopped for a second, and I like smiled, and I realized, like, we all have something that Dr. Stephen Porges calls neuroception, which is we're always looking for cues of safety or danger. That's why you could see somebody and feel like, or feel somebody and feel totally safe because it's what they're experiencing in their body.
Totally.
And so, we were first sitting there and we're both sitting like straight ahead. And I had this thing and I resolved it. Like I've done this work enough times to where I know when my fear-based energy
Recognize
shows up.
it, see it,
Mhm.
resolve it.
I
Yeah.
resolved it. And it was like my whole energy shifted. And I said, if I'm going to learn to love this man next to me and give him the best interview you could and help people see the brilliance of him and see the light in this guy's soul, the brilliance that he is, I'm not going to do it if I'm coming from a fear-based place. And so instead of shaming myself at that moment, I was like, hey, body, like, I know you're trying to protect me. Like, thank you, but I'm good. I got you,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden my whole nervous system, like just got so present with him. And we went from sitting like this to crossing our legs to by the end of it, like literally just like leg up, like towards each
Love
other. I
mirror
was like,
neurons.
Yeah.
picture-
Like right.
Yeah, the invitation from your body to
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
body.
and it was like this beautiful connecting point because I wasn't there to prove anything. I was there to help elevate the soul that has done stuff in his life.
Well, Lesser, you also
Mhm.
wouldn't have invited what you got, right?
Mhm.
This is the thing, like focusing in on you and how
Right.
you aren't
Yep.
would have taken away.
That's it. And so if I would have shamed myself at that moment and try to resolve fear with
Totally.
fear, I would not have gotten to a place of love.
Yep.
It's not love over fear, it's love into fear.
Mm.
It's love into the place that I am afraid, love into the emotions that keep coming up, love into the woundings that I have. That's the only healer. It may sound like, oh yeah, like love is fluffy. No, like it is the thing we're looking for. Who is the leader that I need? And how can I step into that leadership for myself and learn to unblend from my emotions, to know that I am not my thoughts, I'm having thoughts and I'm
Mhm.
feeling emotions and I'm doing these things. And so to your question about the wounding where people are, it's like we all have wounding.
Mm.
We all have patterns. I've been doing this work for 28 years and I just had a massive breakthrough, but that's the beautiful part. I don't do it because I suck. I do it because I get to be better.
Mm.
Mhm.
I get to love myself exactly where I'm at and then love myself enough not to stay there.
And what we kind of know more and more and more through more people talking about it, research is that if I can talk about my shame or whatever you want to name it,
Mhm.
wherever you are, that vulnerability invites connection almost better than
Yes.
any
Oh, yeah.
other thing,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
I cannot be convinced, both as a therapist but as a human, that when people realize that they're not alone in their thing,
Mhm.
they find there's other people, like what that does for their
Yeah.
healing, for their wounds, but also what that does for themselves. It's just
Yeah.
like miraculous.
Totally.
Right?
It's great leaders move with have emotional mastery.
Mm.
If I could master my emotions, why do people do anything? It's for emotions. So if I could walk in a room and influence the room with the emotion and with love and presence and be flexible enough, I'm not a one-trick pony, then I could be the most incredible leader because I'm flexible and have all these different tools and I'm so present to know what I need at that moment. Some of the best leaders that I've seen, it's really cool. One of my clients like walks in his boardroom and all of a sudden everybody's like, dude, everybody's receiving me so differently. It's because
Mhm.
I'm in a different place.
Mm.
And he's like, it's because I'm coming from a place of like, I'm not coming just to do and resolve. He goes, but I'm able to like actually not only we have better bottom line, but guess what? I have better connection and better leadership. And
More
people
being,
yeah,
than
more being.
doing or showing.
And
yeah.
these people that are like the massive people in the world are looking to him because he has a certainty within himself.
Yeah.
Certainty we want in the world, but when you create certainty within yourself because you know how to navigate your emotions and move emotions, that's when you really create powerful change.
Yeah, Terrin, you said but I'd be curious, particularly with Queen Collective and other things you do with women.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular you think, like that the women come that sort of blocks them from connection? Is there a particular
Yeah.
wound or something?
Yeah, well,
Maybe it's
one,
the same, but-
shame
okay.
is a big one, but also I would call it actually, I'll use it with a quote. How Henry said, "There's a king and a fool in every man, and whichever one you speak to is one that shows up." Where there's a queen and a critic
Mm.
in every woman, and so the inner criticism that we have of, well, I should be this, or I should be that, or I should be doing this, or I should be at this point, or I should
less
be
weight.
yes, I should be less weight, I should be married, and they end up
I
like
should be better as a
yes,
mom. I should be, yeah.
they should all over themselves.
yes.
Where in reality, like that disconnects them from true authentic love with themselves, true connection, the belonging in their body, the belonging in, gosh, like how cool is it that God created me so special and unique and feminine and masculine, like all the things, right? All of our parts, welcoming
And
all
look
of these
at what
parts.
I've done, not what should I be doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's the being. It's just like so. the masculine is doing, the feminine is being, but it's not just like being, I'm sitting here being, it's who am I being? Who am I being in
How
relationship
gentle am
with?
I with
Yes.
myself? We're
Yeah.
just so not gentle,
And
right?
loving. And when was the last time we looked in a mirror and actually complimented the way that we looked? Or what are the questions that we're asking ourselves? Are we
What's my
asking?
body done for me? Because I
Yes.
criticize it all the time, but what has it done? Where has it carried me? Where is
Exactly.
it? Yeah.
Exactly. Like a woman's body, first off, is remarkable. Like it can do amazing things.
Amen.
And giving gratitude towards it. Like I've gone through a lot of health stuff this last year, and I'm so grateful for
Never
my
does
body.
that make you more grateful for the things that worked,
Yes.
just like that you didn't think about,
Yeah.
right? I tell people all the time, I'm grateful for my eyelashes and my elbows and my knees, because when
Yes.
you're sick and things that you just took for granted for work, you're almost compelled to think about things you never think about,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
I often want to say, God, thank you for the parts of my body I never think about
Yeah.
ever, because they help do so many things, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And,
yeah.
And so that inner critic, or, whether it be whatever voice that might be, is probably one of the biggest ones that blocks women from the connection that they want in relation. Am I good enough for this guy, or am I feminine enough?
This
for
relationship or this relationship.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
noise is so loud that how could you possibly?
Yes.
I probably quote this the most on my podcast in my life. It's from the book Making Less Matter by Rabbi David Wolpe. He
Mhm.
shares a story about like one neighbor talking to the other neighbor. Hey neighbor, do you love me? Yeah, of course I love you, neighbor. Okay. Hey
Mhm.
neighbor, do you know what causes me pain? No, I don't know. How could you love me if you don't? If we're so consumed with the noise that's here, how could you possibly know what's going over here, which is what builds
Yes.
the connection,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. So to me, this is the most beautiful relationship that you could nourish and cultivate in so many different ways, to have just gratitude and grace. Like, to me, does God want us disconnected from our bodies? Does God want us disconnected from our sexuality or sensuality or our feminine?
Or
No.
play,
Yeah. Or playfulness, or like all of the aspects of the feminine. But he wants us more. Like, he created us that way.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, it's magnetic, and it's freedom to me. And
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amen and amen. Second to last question. I'm going to ask you first and then ask you second. Same question. So you get a chance to think a little bit more.
My turn.
Henry, what does it mean to you to be known?
I mean, when I go to that, I go to the moment where I felt like God saw me and all of me and loved me. Like, to be really known and loved. There's a song that says, I'm fully known and loved by you. And I think when I'm known beyond my patterns, and I'm known in like who I am and my intentions and my soul and all of me, it's held so delicately. And I told Terrin today, I was like, man, I'm just really grateful for the moments where I think when you're also really known, and known and accepted. I think you could be known, but I think unless you're really fully known, I think when people are fully known and we really understand all of them and why they do what they do, it'll be really hard not to love people.
Thank you. Terrin, what does it mean to you to be known?
Yeah. The first thing that popped in my mind is, we've been talking a lot about the term significance. And a lot of people, I think, get caught up in, well, I need to be known because I need to strive and accomplish and gain significance in this way. And that resonates with me from when I was younger. I was a college athlete, and I had to score the points and win the games. And I thought that that's what had to produce and perform. And I thought that that's what I needed to be known for. Where in reality, similar to Henry, is obviously being known and with God, like my connection with God. But also, to me, it's known for someone's experience of love that I've embodied. Like, my goal is to be the embodiment of love in motion, is what I've said. How do people experience me in a felt experience, not just a external, well, she said this, she did this, it's the doing, it's the, how did I feel around her? What was that like? What was her spirit like? What was her love, her essence? To me, to be known at that is so deep, so much deeper than just, hey, what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, I do these things.
Who are you? Yes. Rather than what do you do, right?
Yeah, like known, to be known. And that's what was so powerful with Henry is, he knew me so much faster and in a completely different way than anyone had ever approached me before. Like, it was so, we talk about the snorkeling and the scuba diving. It was like scuba diving, the crevices of the ocean. Like, I was like, he knows me so well, and it's like a week. But like, just the feeling of being known in all of it, like known in my imperfections, and that they're okay. I'm perfectly imperfect. Being known in my pain, being known
Suki
in
would
my
say
joy.
even better because of it.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And known
Sure.
and knowing that being known in that way to me is so special. It's so connected. It's so vulnerable, and it's rich in relationship in that aspect.
My last question, I'm going to ask it. You guys, either one, punch in. You've kind of threaded the needle throughout the whole thing. What does belonging mean to you?
Belonging, man. I think it's the extension of love, right? In the text of like, if I belong, then I'll be loved. Is usually how you feel. And as Terrence said earlier, like, we were driving here, and Terrence like, it's interesting thinking about how many people don't even feel like they belong in their own skin, or they belong in the rooms. Like, there was a season in my life where I knew a lot of people, but I didn't feel like I belonged in the rooms. And it wasn't until that I felt like I belonged within myself, and I belonged in this sense of like, not only did I belong, but I was there for a purpose. When it was when I got to do that is when I truly was able to be the vessel of love and light that I could be, that God wants me to be, and be a vessel for that in the room. Because if I don't feel like I belong, then and I don't belong within myself, I'm gonna keep pretending and try to find a way to belong.
You said chase,
Because
right?
we're beings that look for belonging in all ways. I mean, people belong in different ways. They belong to the same football team. They belong to colleges, and they put that college on their bumper
Church,
sticker for their
club,
whole life,
yeah.
and that's all good belonging. I think there's a depth also of how do you belong to yourself, and how do you know that you belong to something even so much greater than you, that is like is available right now. And when you learn to belong in that way, and you find people in your life that make you feel like you belong, it's co-regulation. It helps you heal so deeply. And allowing yourself to, as Terrence said earlier, like, be vulnerable. It's like, if I keep a distance like this, I'm never really going to feel like I belong, because you don't really know me. How do I belong if you don't know me, really?
You know
But
some versions of me, but you don't know all of me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, so do I really belong here? Because if you really knew this all about me, you may not want. It's like, versus like getting to a place where you're like, man, I'm not perfect. I know that. I have so much work to do. And like, I love my friends. They love me in my ups and my downs,
I'm inherently worthy and enough, right?
yeah. And it's like, yeah, exactly. And where I fall short, my bad. It doesn't mean I don't
I'm
belong.
just gonna say, ain't nobody got time to worry about where you fall short, because they're digging their own,
Right.
figuring out their own thing,
Totally. And
truthfully.
it's actually like, I want to be in a place that I belong more when I'm falling short and I suck. That's where I want to be. I want to
That's
be.
when you're really safe, though, isn't it?
Yes.
When you're really the most connected, when you're really, I mean, that circles back to the conversation I had about you and me with the text, right? Like, yeah, friendships are good when you like each other and you're happy and you're producing and but they really matter when you're falling through the hole in the ice.
Yeah. Right.
That's when they really matter. Who could I have my friends? And it's shocking for, I think, not just for me personally, but for most people, when they think, if I'm falling through the ice, who would I ask? That list becomes very small, depending on how known and how close you feel like you belong. It doesn't mean those people aren't good or important. It just tells you something.
And I'll just say this, because I think some people listening, a lot of people don't feel like they belong. I think a lot of people don't, even if they belong. I think that there's a lot of things our mind will tell us.
The story we tell ourselves, right? Yeah.
And so I just make an invitation to know, like, where you are now. Like, I never thought I would be here. Honestly, like, I felt so insecure, so isolated, so alone, so single, so is it possible, so broke, and so like all the things. And it is so possible. I just really want to emphasize that, like, no matter where you are, no matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, no matter your situation right now. It is not the end.
I especially want to say, if the story you tell yourself is, if they knew this about me, ...
Mhm.
Because sometimes that thing that you think, the story you tell yourself, if they knew this about me, they wouldn't love me, is the gift that will be the most connecting thing
Mhm.
in your life, right? I
Yeah.
just wanted to add that because that's a story that a lot of people tell themselves that keeps them
Yeah.
from belonging.
Yeah. Freedom, man.
Thanks, Henry.
Freedom.
What about you? What belonging mean to you?
Well, the first thing that popped in my mind is that there's a difference between belonging and being chosen. Like I said earlier, is I think so many people misinterpret, if I'm chosen, I belong.
Yeah. Amen.
Where, and I will mirror 100% what Henry said, is the belonging to yourself is probably the foundation of everything, of what does that mean to you to belong to yourself? And is it a loving relationship, or is it a fear-based critical relationship? And that, if that's the only thing you focused on, how different would your life be?
It's like when they asked Jesus what the great commandment was, he said, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
So that
It's
really
like,
means...
so you're really telling me, like, love God, then love myself, then love my neighbors as myself? Wait, hold on. Is that really what you're saying? It's like, yeah. Because if God is love, I wasn't great at math, but if A equals B, then B equals A, right? A equals B, B equals A. So if God is love, then love is the frequency of God. So why would I take anything outside of myself that is God?
Mm-hmm.
We loved him because he loved us first, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if I accept that love because he loves me first, then that gives my system a capacity to heal, to give me greater capacity to love in the first place. So that love for me came from God, from that place where I was like, no, I'm not lovable. Like, trust me, like when I first came to God, like I was living the craziest life. I was in the music industry doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it, right? And I came back, I was like, there's no way. But I had such a sacred experience that I felt so loved, even though I was doing the opposite of what I thought God wanted me to do. And there's a reason why, like, for me personally, like, I love Jesus. Jesus is my, I love Jesus. And the reason I'm so...
Amen. I just want to say amen. Amen
so,
and amen.
Like, for me, it's like when I wasn't a prostitute, but when the prostitute was washing Jesus' feet with oil and he perceives that they're judging, he says, who would be the most loyal? Him who's been forgiven the most, and him who's forgiven the least. I was like, I felt like I was forgiven the most, but not only was I forgiven, but I was loved at my worst, right? And so, like, when we have people
Price
or
is already
God,
paid.
yeah. And when I could feel and allow myself to get past the culture or church hurt or people that are in fear-based trying to manipulate you to be being worthy enough to be good enough for God, it's like, God will love you when. It's like, no, God loves you no matter what. But when I like actually allowed myself to embody it and I had a sacred experience with that, my whole life changed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't know what happened in relationships and then friendships. And I was like, this is the love I want to emulate. But I almost wanted to, I experienced it first from God, like that spiritual connection that was like, wait, am I really loved? Like, whoa, all of me right now? Like right now in my and I was in a very different place and I still have a lot to do. I feel like sometimes like, God, thank you for being patient. You're so great.
I sometimes feel like grace is the ultimate belonging, connecting.
Yeah, it is because it's like, man, so allowing ourselves to receive the truth that right now I am loved. Right now. Like, no matter
Just where
you
I'm
are.
enough. I'm inherently worthy.
Right now.
Yeah. And I'll
You're
add to
loved.
that if you are seeking for belonging externally outside of yourself, you're looking in the wrong place first. There's nothing external at the end of the day, because let's be realistic. There's going to be places, there's going to be people, there's going to be things that maybe you have a desire of belonging, but you're not going to feel like you do belong or that you're even supposed to be there. And so that's why the foundation of, if you know yourself, like truly deeply, if you belong to yourself and you choose yourself in that way first, everything else is natural, and you're going to either draw in even more belonging and the feeling of belonging from others, or, and move away from places that you don't feel like you belong. Because sometimes I think people force their belonging of like, no, I belong here. We're really, I'm supposed to belong here. We see that with families or, dynamics and stuff like that.
And put themselves in places where people are all trying to perpetrate and nobody really feels like they belong. So no one ever feels like they belong.
Exactly.
Versus finding friends and people that actually you do belong to, because one person's cooler and you want to be in the cool crew.
Yeah. And so that's where
we
the
can have a totally different
foundation,
conversation.
the foundation all comes back down to belonging to yourself first in such a loving, beautiful way.
So,
And-
baby,
and I
you
just
should
wanna
go
finish
and
with
love
this.
yourself.
Both of you individually, and there's way more to your stories, and you guys can find them and elsewhere in lots of podcasts and things. Both of you are great examples to me of that, because you don't have these perfect beginning stories. You not that any of us do, and you and your ability to invest in yourselves individually and then into each other, and then synergizing that and growing and where you are. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming
Thanks
here.
for having us.
So we're gonna put it in the liner notes, but where can the lovely people find you guys? Websites and things. Will you list some of those where
You
they
can
can
find
find you?
Terrin at the
Oh my
Queen
gosh, of
Collective,
course you
the THE Queen Collective with a K, KOLLECTIVE. I believe I spelled that right.
All right, your turn to say. Where can we find
And
Henry?
you can find Henry, the amazing, good-looking, best
my gosh.
ever handsome man, at Henry Ammar on Instagram.
AMAR.
HENRY.
Two M's, by the way.
Yeah, 2 M's.
AR, 2 M's.
Yeah,
2
and
M's.
we have a podcast together called Love Uncensored with Henry and Terrin Ammar for around relationships and love and polarity and all the things. And
Yeah.
And you guys do some retreats sometimes, and you do
Mhm.
some workshops sometimes, so
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
can just kind of, you put that out
Yeah,
usually
so
on
those will be on
Instagram.
our-
Yeah.
Come on
Socials and
down.
stuff.
Well, thank you for all that
Thanks
you
for
do,
having
but
us.
mostly thank you for being friends.
Thank you for being
Oh,
so
yeah.
awesome
Love
and
you, Kylie.
a really good friend and helping us feel like we belong too. So thank you.
Yes.